Hello, this is Randy. Thank you so much for joining me for Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. I don't know how everyone feels about it, but I remember as a kid, even in college and as a young married person, that I had to wait till late at night to make a long distance phone call because otherwise it was just too expensive. I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody else or if it was just me, the way I was raised, but I think it was after 9 that you got a discounted rate on phone calls. We'd stay up and call home at that time. I remember the first time I got a cell phone, I could buy, it was like 100 minutes and it was $28 a month plus the rent on the cell phone. I thought, wow, 28 cents a minute. That's outrageous. Now I look at what my cell phone costs. I use it all the time. It's no big deal. But back in the day, it was expensive to make long distance phone calls. Now everybody doesn't even think about it being a long distance call. My niece just called me from Hawaii, and they had recently moved there from an Air Force base. I can't remember which one, but her number was a 801 number, a Utah number. Now we don't even think about making calls. Well, I want to tell you about a call I made as a missionary in South America. I needed to call home. I called from an apartment that had a phone that we could make long distance calls on. And they told me that the bill would catch up to me. And it did. Several months later, I think like 4 months later, I made the call in December when I had a year on my mission. I got a hold of my family. We talked 20 minutes or so. And I got this bill 4 months later. It was $400. I did have to pay that. I did pay it. That it frustrated me. So one day I was talking to somebody, a local in Venezuela, and they said, "Oh, well, don't you know what happens? Venezuelans call the States?" I said, "No." He says, "Well, you just kind of remember who you need to call and wait until you find a broken phone. Because in the States, when you deposit your money in a phone and the call doesn't go through, you call the operator and they mail you the money back, right?" I said, "Yes. That's true." They used to do that. You put your money in and the call didn't go through for whatever reason. You could call the operator and you would say, "My name is, I live at such and such, and I just put in a quarter." They could listen and verify that it was a quarter that went in, and they would mail you a quarter back. It only cost a few cents to mail a coin back in those days. But in Venezuela, the phone company chose not to do that. But when a phone would break, people were allowed to use it until it was discovered that it was broken. People wouldn't report their broken phones. So in a smaller community, that didn't happen very often. But you went to a bigger community like Caracas or Maracaibo, and there are broken phones all over the place. That's how I communicated with my family. In fact, people used to actually tell me as I was walking down the street, "Hey, there's a broken phone up there about 2 blocks." I asked my mission president, who was a local Venezuelan, about it. I said, "Hey, am I breaking any rules by doing this?" He goes, "No." He says, "I do it too." I guess it was just part of their culture. I think I may have mentioned their phones were made in France, and that was the company they chose to go with. And in the States back in the day, what would happen is, and you may have seen this in movies, where they would say, "Well, you need to deposit 35 cents for the next 2 minutes," or whatever. Well, in that country, in Venezuela, they had a little countdown, and it would go 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If it hit 0, the call was canceled. But while it was counting down, you could put in a coin. Now, so you didn't load your phone up if you knew it was going to cost a couple dollars or a couple coins. You would put it in as that counter was going down. I never became an expert in using phones down there. I used them as I needed to. But to have what we have today in these cell phones, I mean, I carry around with me a computer that is more powerful than the astronauts had when they went to the moon. Much, much, much more powerful. I have a huge amount of storage on this phone. I have thousands of pictures. I download podcasts I want to listen to and books that I want to listen to. It's incredible. I don't know that we are grateful enough for what we have, but I just wanted to say you can spend a lot on a phone, but it doesn't seem like it costs us a lot to make the calls anymore. We sure are spending a lot for our phones. At least most of us are. I just think we should be careful and understanding of that. I see people as I go out and about, and they have different phones than I have. I happen to have an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and at some point I'll get a new phone. But I like my phone. It's nothing special, but I like it. I understand the features and know how to make it work for me. So I guess it's what I want, but it's not an inexpensive phone. And if somebody had told me 20 years ago that I would pay, $1,000 or so for a phone I would use for a year or two and then get rid of, I never would have believed them. I don't think you would have either. It's just interesting how much our society has changed, where our needs and what we perceive as important. Remember, phone calls aren't necessarily expensive, and we can call any time of the day. I'm shocked. I mean, you've seen the memes where it'll say, back in the day, I used to answer a phone on the wall with no caller ID, and I survived. Well, that was true. I mean, the phone rang, you answered it. You didn't know who was there. It wasn't, caller ID didn't come around until, I can't remember if I was in high school, and you had to pay extra for it. So not everybody had it. Maybe it was college. I know we had it at home, and we would screen our calls with it once we could afford it. Anyway, thanks again for joining me for another edition of Brain Break with Randy and Keitho. I hope you'll like and subscribe. Leave us some comments. Tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.